Hello and welcome to a new pick a card reading. I've been getting some requests to return to pick a card readings. So here we are. I know it took a while, but we're here now. And today we are going to take a look. What power are you stepping into and what truth will it cost you? For that, we have 3 groups today, and I've chosen 3 different tarot decks for each group. We are taking a look at the strength card for each of these decks, so that you can see which deck or which group is calling you. I will give you a close-up right now. For group 1, we have the Pope Tarot. This is the strength card for the Pope Tarot. And I'm realizing as I told you this is the Pope Tarot that I don't know that I remember the names of the other decks. This is group number 2. This is the strength card for group 2. And this is, my goodness, what's the name? It's a pirate themed tarot deck, but I can't recall the name right now. This one is the Ethereal Visions deck. This is group 3. I'm going to give you a moment to zone in or zone out, whatever you need in order for you to figure out which group is calling you the most. Don't overthink it. Go with your gut, go with your instinct, go with your intuition, and I will meet you in your reading. Hi group 1, if you chose the Pope Tarot, this is going to be your reading. We're going to put the strength card somewhere in the middle here and get to shuffling. I also have picked some crystals to accompany each reading. And for your reading, we have Unakite to accompany us. We're going to place that right up here. All right, we are taking a look today as we are in the midst of eclipse season. We recently had the solar eclipse in Leo. We are about to have the lunar eclipse in Pisces at the end of the month. Today is the 20th. The lunar eclipse will be on the 28th August. So I want to take a look as we are in this transitional period. What is a power that you are stepping into, and what is the truth that it will cost you? So we are going to start off with an energy check. That is going to be one card that lets me know the energy that you're mostly embodying at this time or striving to embody. Get an energy check for group 1. We have Judgment. Okay. I like the Judgment card coming out. Whether this is the energy that you're embodying or striving to embody, it does indicate a lot of sort of readiness for the truth. It's kind of like you're already bracing yourself. You're either already facing the truth or you are readying yourself for it. We're going to take a peek at the bottom of the deck. We have the 10 of Pentacles. All right, this to me feels like you understand that sacrifice is necessary here for some kind of achievement. Interesting. All right, we are going to take a look at the power that you are stepping into, which with that 10 of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck feels like a significant shift. This did come out in reverse. We're going to see what it is. We have the Chariot card coming out in reverse. We have the Wheel of Fortune. I like that. This feels very much like holding your horses. We have the 2 of Cups. And then we have the 3 of Cups. I am tempted to take it in reverse. We'll see how that feels. All right, at the bottom of the deck, we have the Two of Pentacles. Let's straighten out a little bit here. So in regards to the power that you are stepping into, with the Chariot in reverse, the Wheel of Fortune, this kind of feels like using your resources in a smarter way. This feels like working smarter, not harder, using circumstance to aid you, because I'm thinking of allowing the wind to substitute some kind of energy output. So that makes me think of a windmill, but it also makes me think of the way that the wind will fill a sail. And with the Two of Cups, but the Three of Cups in reverse, I do think that you're stepping into a power of knowing when to stop wasting your time with certain resources, but also certain people, certain contracts, certain obligations. I see you becoming more focused and taking things less personal. This feels like you are moving away from perhaps previously approaching situations from a place of quantity over quality, and that is shifting. So I do see you, especially with this Two of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck right now, I do think that you are taking something as evidence. It feels like you've tried something one way and you are recognizing where it has brought you, the outcome it has given you, the feelings that it has brought in as well, and you are weighing that with the outcome that you have in mind, which is the Ten of Pentacles. So this feels like editing. It feels like Virgo driven, but not in the sense that sometimes Virgo energy can feel obligated to serving everyone's interest. This feels more like certain budget cuts have to be made, and the budget cut feels like knowing when to not waste your energy, your efforts, also I'm thinking of your passion, but it feels more so like when to not let certain things upset you. This feels like very restrained and focused power. This feels like a lot of your strength moving forward will lie in deepening intimate relations. It makes me think of, quite honestly, it makes me think of the difference that happens between collective readings, like what I'm doing right now, and private readings. Private readings, intimate readings, are my favorite. They are where I feel the most confident. They are where I feel like I have the most ability to help someone. And that's sort of the comparison that I'm getting here, is that you are moving away from, especially, for example, if you have the skill of teaching, this would be going away from like creating an online course that people can download and shifting to one-on-one mentorship sessions. So I do think that has a lot to do with focusing on your strengths and abilities, but I think that also has to do with focusing on you also getting something out of the work that you're putting in. Now, this sounds quite professional, even though we have cups here, but I do think that is because you are looking at sort of your life's work with the Judgment card that came out with that Ten of Pentacles. I do think that you are looking at the way you're using your energy in a holistic way, because you want all of the pieces to feel cohesive, all of the different aspects of your life to feel cohesive. All right, let's take a look at the truth that this will cost you stepping into this power, because I do think I already see a risk of this perhaps costing you certain relationships that are more transactional in their foundation, or that where people are getting benefits out of you not maintaining your boundaries properly. But let's see, what is the truth that this will cost you? For group one, what is the truth that this will cost group one? We have the Ace of Cups. We have the Hanged Man. Yeah, already I'm getting that part of this truth is that there is a strong difference in slowing yourself down versus holding back to build momentum. Because again, I'm getting like the metaphor of teaching, and there are certain things that are simpler to teach to a group of people. But when you notice that there is someone that is struggling with the concept you're trying to teach, it can be really difficult, and it can be really non-beneficial for the group to slow down your teaching for the sake of one person. And so it's better to focus on that person intimately. This is just a metaphor in order for me to explain the energy, though, because what's important here is that there's a difference in restraint versus in holding yourself back for the sake of trying to sort of make something comfortable for everyone. So I do think that the truth here is that part of the truth that you need to face is that your instinct or your desire to create comfort for everyone is actually something that keeps you in a state of suspense. We have the Five of Cups, yeah, and it makes you lose out on certain relationships that are actually very valuable. And relationships, again, could just be a metaphor, because that doesn't have to be a one-on-one relationship like a friendship or a romantic connection, but that could also be financial opportunities, right? Contracts. There's something where you're trying to make yourself palatable for everyone, and because of that, you're trying to sort of accommodate all the different perspectives in which you need to be. It's kind of like, imagine you create a dish and it comes with a particular flavor profile that you developed, and then you let your friends and family try it, and it's kind of like, oh, but this has too much pepper for me, or oh, I don't like it when it's that salty. If you're constantly sort of editing for the sake of other people's taste palette, you'll end up with some kind of mush that is very bland. That's what's kind of coming through here. So the truth that needs to be faced here with the Five of Cups is, again, that's right, we have 3 cups that have fallen over, but the 2 cups still stand. And so the 2 cups are mirrored right here. And that feels very valuable here. So the 3 cups being in reverse is worth it here. And that energetically reads like sacrificing certain relationships that didn't serve your greater vision anyways. Yeah. We have the Six of Wands, and then we have the Death card. Yeah. Okay, so the truth that you need to face here is that you cannot be everybody's cup of tea. You cannot be everybody's favorite flavor. You cannot be everybody's best friend. The truth that you have to face here is that if you prioritize other people's priorities, you cannot blame other people for keeping you stuck, because it's you choosing to rearrange your own priorities for the sake of other people's needs. So this also could have to do with time management, right? Feeling like you don't have enough time to pursue your own dreams or your own interests. The truth that you need to face here, and trust me, I know that there are certain limitations, right? A day only has 24 hours. And if you have obligations that are sort of non-negotiable, like if you have children or if you have dependents and work and all of those things, I understand that there are certain limitations to that. But the truth to face here is that there is, especially going back to that Two of Pentacles that we saw, there at the end of the day, somebody's going to pay. There will be sacrifice made. And the question is, will it be you or will it be others' comfort, others' views of you? There's this feeling here of trying to delay. There's like a delay of self-driven action that in a way I think has prepared you to be able to really move with intention and conviction. That is why we see this Chariot in reverse with the Wheel of Fortune. I do think that the Wheel of Fortune is sort of turning this, but because it feels like you have kept yourself in a state of sort of energetic suspense for a while because you were waiting for other energies, relationships, obligations to catch up or to finally be fulfilled somehow. It really has taught you restraint, and it kind of feels like this is something that you will use in a positive way. It's almost like rejection therapy that you have been exposing yourself internally to, that really helps you moving forward as you're stepping into this power up here. It really helps you to sort of navigate some kind of rejections in a way where you, like I said, you don't take it personally and you recognize, oh, something either is meant for me or it is not for me. It is not part of my story, not part of my path. And I think in the past you would have tried to win certain opinions and situations over, tried to manipulate them, tried to convince them, tried to manipulate yourself to fit into a room that wasn't meant for you. And so that's where I really think the truth that you have to face is that, again, honestly, if something that's coming through here is a truth that you have to face is that you cannot make someone love you. And that goes for people as much as it goes for clients or an audience or something like that. Changing yourself won't make anyone love you more. Oof, that is a hard truth. Especially with the Death card, because the combination that I'm getting here with the Six of Wands and the Death card, it makes me think of the moment in Disney's Aladdin when the genie explains to Aladdin the things that he cannot do, right? Which is bring someone back from the dead, which we're seeing here, and make someone fall in love with you. And there's this great fanfare where that's just sort of like the fine print of it. So that's what that is making me think of. All right. But again, the fact that you are stepping into this power where it's like, okay, well, now that I know the rules, I can accept that and I can actually focus on what matters instead of getting distracted and holding myself back unnecessarily. We have the 6th house, we have Cancer energy, and we also have Venus energy. Now, I was talking about boundaries earlier with the 6th house and Cancer energy. I do think that this has a lot to do, and I was thinking about that already with this Two of Cups because it has the symbol of medicine beyond this this couple here, which is also on the traditional depiction of the Two of Cups. And I was already thinking about you healing something within your relationships or within yourself. And so this has a lot to do with as I mentioned earlier, boundaries, but it kind of feels like you're becoming more, you're enforcing certain boundaries more so that you can be more intimate and more vulnerable in certain spaces. So that kind of feels like setting a threshold so that not everyone can see what you're doing, not everyone has access to what it is that you're providing, and that allows you to be more openly within those boundaries, more openly yourself to the people or the opportunities that come past that threshold. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. Now, on the other hand, this also has a lot to do with you prioritizing yourself and prioritizing your physical health and really caring for yourself. And that could be something that has gotten to the point where you have to, where you don't even have the opportunity to hang out with people who really are just sort of, you know, some connections or opportunities with other people. It's not that people are necessarily malicious or just waiting for the opportunity to take advantage of you, but certain connections in our life arise out of proximity and ease of access. But then when something happens where the ease of access becomes, like I said, more of a threshold, you'll see the people who are not willing to pass that threshold. And that doesn't mean that they are bad people. It just means that there's not enough of sort of a compatible foundation for people to want to put in extra effort to hold on to a connection that requires a little bit more. So what I mean by that is, you know, oftentimes we see who our friends really are when we are in need of emotional, physical, mental, or even financial support, right? When we are not doing well. And that's not to say that that's something that's ahead of you. This is not prophesizing anything. This would be something that you're already aware of. So if you have found yourself dealing with health issues and you're taking it personal that people are dropping like flies because, you know, a lot of people that don't have, like I said, that intimate foundation and alignment with you, they feel awkward and they feel uncomfortable when they are faced with the reality of being around someone who struggles and just saying like, oh, I believe in you and you can get over this. Works once, but at some point you have to have like difficult conversations and really be there and really listen for someone who is struggling, right? And a lot of people, they can't do that for someone if they don't feel like they're really entwined with them in an energetic way. And so again, that's not to say that people are just out to take advantage of you. Absolutely not. This is again a transition from it's a transition that emphasizes quality over quantity within your relationships, within your opportunities, within your creative endeavors, so that and again, I think that comes from a place of just, whether it is illness, doesn't have to be, if it is, it's something you already know, okay? But that could also just be your life shifting in a way where you just don't have time to give anything extra, to sort of just focus on what matters. Okay, let's get you some oracle cards. Spirit, can we get some advice? Whoever this is, what are some significant energies to keep in mind here as this person is stepping into this power? We have journey, and then we have feel. At the bottom of the deck, we have mind. So I do think that what's coming through for you, it does feel like a shift that is starting off internally and that will ripple out into your relationships in a significant way, okay? And that is very likely going to be all of your relationships, the way that you relate to your friends, the way that you relate to your family, the way that you relate to your coworkers, to your bosses, anything like that. And it is with journey and feel, the challenge here is to navigate how you are feeling and to recognize that that is a turn on the path. That it's not just something that maybe in the past, I think you've had a tendency to be like, oh, I don't like the way that this person's made me feel, but I don't want to be rude and I don't want them to think I have a problem with them. So I'm just going to keep walking straight, even though the path was saying, hey, get away from this person, turn left. And you were like, well, I'm just going to ignore how I feel. I do think that this path ultimately is leading, and again, there is sacrifice here with the Death card, but we did see the Ten of Pentacles because you are realizing that there is sacrifice that is necessary to get to that Ten of Pentacles of you feeling like your life is in alignment and cohesive. Yeah. The Fool, even though the Fool is known to stray off of the path, I think for you, straying off of the path is to actually go onto your path instead of trying to sort of navigate other people's expectations or paths for the sake of not disrupting the way that you are perceived, for example. We have the Storm and we have the Ring. So the Storm is similar to Uranus energy, and with the Ring we're talking more Saturnian energy. This is an illumination of some kind of contract. Yeah, there's something that's coming into like focus. You're realizing that you have bigger fish to fry. You're realizing that it doesn't matter what Betty from accounting thinks of you. I don't know where she came from. You're realizing like you have bigger fish to fry, and that it's okay to leave certain things unresolved, unfinished, so long as you pour your full heart and commitment into the things that will bear fruit, into the situations, the ideas, the creative direction, the relationships and opportunities that promise to bear fruit. And that doesn't mean that you are being opportunistic. No, it's just realizing like, oh, I don't owe you anything. I'm just in sort of the social fog of dance and performance, but I realize that in the big picture of my life, I'm not married to you. I don't owe you my sort of suffering or holding myself back here. And sometimes that also means in the real big picture, which is very sort of transcendent because it applies to the way that we feel about our life, that also means sometimes recognizing that you don't owe even the person that you married, that is a changeable status or a changeable relationship, and even our family can be a changeable relationship. So this is like really big picture, because there's some kind of illumination here of social obligation versus emotional obligation to yourself. Yeah, as I say that, we have self-reflection. This is about, but what do I owe to me? But what about me? Where am I giving too much in my daily life, in my servitude, so that there's nothing left at the end of the day for me to feel well? And we have release. Yeah. So I do think that you are releasing the sacrifice. The truth that it's going to cost is that there is a version of you that is somewhat, it's still born out of you, so it's not inherently inauthentic, but there is a version of you that has been molded by circumstance, that has been molded by external expectation, that you are releasing. That is a process that is either beginning or being refined by the current eclipse season. Especially because the upcoming lunar eclipse in Pisces is closing out the storyline of the eclipses on the Pisces section of the Pisces Virgo axis. We have transitions. You have all of the inner resources you need to cross whatever bridges arise on your path. See, and that really is what's shifting here, because I think a previous version of you thought, I have to go out and I have to barter with people. I have to convince people because they have resources that I need in order for me to get to my 10 of Pentacles. And what's shifting is like, wait, that's actually not what I have to do. I need to understand that I have inherent value and worth, and that the right kind of alignment and sort of journey, pathway is leading me straight to that. Not because I'm guaranteed a life of ease, but because I'm guaranteed to pursue a life that makes me feel good if I prioritize pursuing a life that makes me feel good. Now, that is, of course, conditional. That is not completely unconditional, because we cannot pursue everything that makes us feel good, because that's how we end up in addictions and such. That's why it's about a holistic approach, right? Not just about in the moment. You want something stable. Yeah, we have intentions. Lacking personal direction begets confusion, and life is a pawn to someone else's game of chess. That's exactly what we're talking about here. That is a cycle that is closing out for you, and that is huge. That is huge, because that allows you to really sort of find the strength to assert your own vision more moving forward, and also to feel less, or to find yourself less victimized, to find yourself less put in a corner by external circumstance, which is why I think you will deal with certain rejections much better, because, like I said, there's something about taking it less personal, because there's this feeling of like, oh, I've faced worse. I can wait for, you're telling me all I have to deal with is the Wheel of Fortune. I can deal with that, because at least the Wheel of Fortune is non-discriminatory. The Wheel of Fortune doesn't judge you. It just moves. So if you're telling me all I have to do is move with sort of the, there's a word that wants to come through, but I'm just thinking of like, it's just like it's a power that is, the only thing I can think of is non-discriminatory, but there is a different word that wants to come through. I just can't get there. But if you're telling me, then at least I don't have to perform. I don't have to be a certain way to impress the wheel, right? And I think that's why you're showing up with the Judgment, because with the self-reflection card, you're realizing sort of the dance that you've let yourself be convinced of, that feels like it's necessary. Look at how I actually set down the transitions card. It covers this other version of you that isn't even reflecting, like she's not even facing herself. All right, can we get some advice? In order for you to move through this transition confidently, what is an energy for you to release? We have Mentor. And again, this is, you know, I always think it's a little bit ironic when this card comes out, especially in this position, because it is what I'm doing here, right? I am giving guidance, I am giving mentorship to a certain degree. Keep in mind, this is a general collective reading here, so I'm talking to a group of people, but what you're being asked to release is the idea that someone outside of yourself has the answer that you already have inside, that you already have access to. Because the shadow attribute says inability to allow the student to move on to the role of master, imparting false instruction. And that is you sort of saying like, oh, I'm not ready yet, I'm not ready yet, I'm not as good as this person, my ideas aren't as valuable as those brands' ideas. It's, again, this suspense here, right? Of like, no, I need to learn more, I need to understand more. It's keeping yourself in a state. Now, I'm a huge proponent of being a forever student. I am a student of life, and I'm going to continuously learn. But that doesn't mean that there aren't certain things that I have mastered, and I will master them, and I will relearn them again, right? It's not a stagnant state. What is an energy for you to embody more of, to grow towards? We have Beggar. This card says, in the light attributes, confronts empowerment at the level of physical survival, which is what we're talking about with that 10 of Pentacles. Awakens the spiritual authority of humility, compassion, and self-esteem. The Beggar card is about sort of not letting the societal construct of what a beggar is, which is just somebody that says, hey, I am worthy of support. I am worthy of being seen as someone who has needs. To not let the societal construct of what a beggar is categorized as, labeled as, to not let that override the feelings that you have that say, hello, I have needs. Hello, I need something here, right? That you have the ability, first of all, again, you have everything that you need internally, but that doesn't mean that you have every resource, but you have everything you need within you to manage the journey and acquire the resources along the way, okay? So it's okay for you to receive support, but that doesn't mean that you need support because you can't do it. Like, no, it's we kind of have to remove sort of the positive and negative connotations. It's neutral. The fact of you needing resources or needing support or needing certain things in life, it's not good or bad. It's literally, it just is. The energy that you're mostly embodying at this time is Sea Serpent. The energy for you to embody more of is the Hyena. I love that. Again, this is something about taking things less personal. But with the Sea Serpent, I can see that this has been a long process for you. This has been something that you have been cycling through in phases, okay? This is soul healing. This is something that is emerging after a very long time of self-reflection and probably a lot of frustration that has caused you to be like, I feel really unheard or unseen in certain opportunities, in certain situations, in certain employment situations or relationships, feeling really unheard, feeling really frustrated and constantly trying to find out what's wrong with me. And that eventually leading to you being like, wait a minute, I've checked every corner inside my mind, right? I've checked every iteration of my mind, and I'm realizing it's not that there's something wrong with me. It's that there's something wrong in the way that I'm approaching like my journey. All right. For energy for you to embody more of, we have Hyena. Humor, wit, sarcasm. The Hyena personality is a jokester and a crowd pleaser, but below the surface there are unfulfilled dreams to be realized. When the Hyena card appears, it's time to reflect on your reliance on sarcasm and humor to express your truth. Are you using jokes to hide old resentments in relationships or to mask things that you feel uncomfortable discussing? Again, you've been trying to heal certain things internally, but there are certain things that require sort of external application. What would happen if you took your goals seriously? When in balance, charming, witty, fun to be around. When out of balance, scrappy, petty, suspicious. To bring into balance, sobriety. Now, that doesn't necessarily, that can mean whatever feels right to you, especially because we did get the 6th house here. I do think it means sort of not letting yourself be distracted, right? A lot of things that connect to sobriety or addiction in the inverse, right? A lot of things that connect to us becoming dependent or addicted to them are either substances or patterns or relationships that actually numb our ability to be aware of where we currently are in life, right? It's about distracting ourselves, it's about numbing ourselves, it's about replacing certain dopamine sort of routines that we are missing or lacking otherwise. And so with sobriety, that could mean substances or anything serious and severe like that, but it could also mean taking a very sober approach to your life, sort of paying attention to where you kind of get the itch to respond a certain way, and then to question, wait, why do I feel like I have to make everyone in the room comfortable right now? Why do I feel like I need this person in the elevator to like me, right? So again, with hyena, there is this call to sort of, on one hand, to take things less serious, but also not to sort of brush over things with humor in a way where you are just, you know, shoving things under the rug. All right. Spirit, any last considerations or advice here? We have clarity. I also like how this imagery of this sea serpent is very much repeating this imagery here, even in the colors. We got forget-me-nots. We have, what is that? That is probably, is it angel light? Now I can't think of it. I have one and I just moved it to my bedside. Now I can't think of the word that I'm looking for. Anyways, but we're seeing a repetition here of the colors and the symbolism here being clarified by a compass. And so this kind of feels like there's some kind of fog that is lifting, and it's helping you move more confidently in the direction that actually makes sense for you, that actually feels aligned. And it's going to be uncomfortable because it takes you off course somehow, but really it takes you on course. But within relationships, it will feel like, oh, I've been on this course thinking I was headed in this direction, so now I have to kind of be like, oh, never mind. And there's some kind of tension that arises from that. At the bottom of the deck, we have dive in, which again is echoing this sentiment here of self-reflection. All right, so I do think that has a lot to do with sort of facing. Dive in often to me is a card of shadow work, and I think that has a lot to do with facing the parts of you that you have been repressing for the sake of comfort in the moment, but it's actually taking you off course from your long-term goals that we saw with the Ten of Pentacles. And again, the Ten of Pentacles is not just about accumulating money. It's about accumulating and it is about cultivating a life that feels abundant to you, and sort of being proud of your choices along the way, being proud of the life that you build for yourself. And in order to do that, you gotta listen to your own counsel. And I think that's where you've sort of strayed a little bit in the past. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for hanging out. I hope it resonates. I hope it's constructive. I haven't done collective pick-a-card readings in so long, so I forgot my spiel that I do at the end. I do offer private readings. They are my favorite. If you are interested in that, check out my website. That is the only way to book with me. I am really hoping to return to these pick-a-cards regularly, so we'll see how that goes. I'm not making any promises, but I do kind of have to find my groove, so go easy on me here. Collective readings are a particular energetic experience. I very much prefer private readings, but I also am feeling drawn energetically to sort of return here, so be patient with me. I'm gonna leave it there. And I hope I get to read for you again sometime. Until then, take care. Hi, Group 2. If you chose the Tempest Tarot, I looked it up. This is your reading. We are going to shuffle this Strength card right back into the deck. And we are going to take a look today at the power that you are stepping into and the truth that it will cost. So we are currently in eclipse season. Recently had the solar eclipse in Leo, and we are about to have the lunar eclipse in Pisces. And that's a very transitional time period for us, as the nodes have also just shifted into Aquarius and Leo. So our focus is shifting collectively, individually. I also am going to have this reading accompanied by this Angel Aura Quartz. And we are going to start off with an energy check. This is going to be one card that lets me know the energy that you're mostly embodying at this time or striving to embody in regards to this power that you are about to step into. All right, Spirit, can we get an energy check for Group 2? We have the Five of Wands. Okay. I do always pay attention to how cards come out, and it is looking a little sideways. I do honor sideways cards in a certain way. To me, in this position, because it is an energy check, it kind of means that you are sort of teeter-tottering here, that you're on the brink of, you don't know if this is a good energy to want to embody, but it does feel like it's prickling, it's rising. It makes me think of, you know, when you open a bottle of a drink that has carbonation in it, and then you start to open it and the bubbles come to the top, and it's like, I gotta do this slowly because otherwise it's gonna be a mess. So with the Five of Wands, we are typically talking about conflict of interest, specifically sort of like the vision that you see for yourself. So right now it could be that you're struggling with not wanting to step into this power, right? With great power comes great responsibility. And so maybe there's something about where you're at right now where you're like, actually, I like it here. Thank you. I don't want any more. But you are here in this reading, so something within you is also ready for that. Let's see. Yeah, we have the Emperor at the bottom of the deck. Honestly, this kind of feels a little bit like stage fright. This feels a little bit like there are voices in your head that are like, no, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. And then there's something within you that is like, screw that. I may not know exactly what I'm doing, but I know more than those doofuses. So I do think this could have to do with you wanting to start your own business, you wanting to make a very significant move in career, but we'll see. It doesn't have to be just career related. It really has to do with you believing in yourself, and I think there's a little bit of hesitation in that regard right now. But let's see, what power are you stepping into? Woo. All right, we have the Death card. I am taking it upright. I know it did a little flip, but I am taking it upright. These cards are very eager to dance. Death card, first card out. We have the Hierophant. I see you going all in on something. I'm getting the vibe of spending lots of nights up. This could be even you going back to school or learning something because you have that vision of the Emperor within you, but there's this feeling of, but if I want to do that, then I have to jump through these different hoops of getting some kind of accreditation or some kind of education. It's kind of like there's something that comes before the feeling of empowerment that feels like, oh, that's the part that I'm dreading. That's the part that I don't want to do. And then we have the Star card. I am taking that one in reverse. I am taking that one in reverse, but I like this. I like this energy. First of all, we have all major arcana on the table right now. At the bottom of the deck, we have the Three of Cups. Okay, so the reason I say I like this, even though the Star card is in reverse and the Death card is upright, is because I think you are becoming more focused on doing it. There's something that you have your eye on, and you're becoming more empowered by the process rather than the outcome. It's not, you don't need the carrot in front of the horse. There's something about really being forged by the journey. And I know that sounds awful. That's why you're like, oh, that sounds awful. I don't want to be forged. I don't need any more character development. Trust me, I know. But that's not what this is. It's not it is character development. It's a refinement of some kind of skills. But this feels like raw application. So it makes me think of, for some reason, I keep thinking of like the medical field. You know, there are certain things that you learn from a book, and then there are certain things that you cannot learn from a book. You just need lived experience. But especially, and the reason I'm thinking of the medical field is because the stakes are so high. And so that can come with a lot of anxiety and a lot of pressure. But this is sort of like finding out in that pressure that you are actually able to navigate that really well. And that is something that feels really satisfying to you. And that almost feels like, oh, I'm realizing I actually am not in it for the money. I'm not in it for, there's something also, because the Star card is not necessarily just wish fulfillment. The Star card is also about sort of a healing process and sort of like a solve, a soothe. And there's something here where you are actually really fired up by the tension. You're really fired up by, again, I'm thinking the process, but I'm thinking more so the exertion of energy. And I know that it feels right now like, that does not sound fun, but I think there is camaraderie in that. I think there is sort of some kind of recognition. With this Three of Cups, there's like finding your people and finding like, this feels a little manic. I do have to say, it feels a little manic, but it feels like staying up all night and being really obsessed with something that feels like, I'm thinking of The Social Network right now, the movie The Social Network, which of course is about the inception of Facebook. Problematic in its own ways, of course, deeply, deeply problematic, but I'm thinking of just the movie, okay? And how it explains how that huge, literally billion-dollar company idea stemmed from a place of frustration and mania. Like this was having the audacity and being like, I'm going to make something that no one has ever made. I'm going to take advantage of some kind of momentum. The thing is that right now it feels like, why am I doing this to myself? Because I don't think you found the momentum yet. But once you find that momentum, it changes something completely here. And I think your energy is coming through as being incredibly good at navigating difficult terrain, at making sense of things that are really, you're good at bringing harmony to really dark places as well, especially with this Death card and the Hierophant and the Lovers. Like, I think you're really skilled at psychology. But then the idea is like, okay, if I'm really skilled at psychology, does that mean I have to be surrounded by unhealed people for the rest of my life? And that is, with the Star card in reverse, I also don't think that this is an energy that is sort of dismissed. It's just, the power that you're stepping into is that it's self-driven focus instead of doing it for the particular purpose of fixing, healing, or rewarding something within yourself. This is being obsessed with the mystery. This is, it also makes me think of Dr. House, right? Deeply flawed individual, and yet so good at what he does, which is solve very intense, high stakes mysteries, which is all based on Sherlock Holmes, right? Even the archetype of Sherlock Holmes in the traditional sense is deeply troubled individual that is incredibly skilled at navigating and exploring spaces that are difficult terrain for other people. And so I see you finding some kind of balance with the Lovers. I see you finding some kind of balance and harmony within that. And I think the star energy will still play a role here, because especially with this Three of Cups, I do think that you're stepping into... Now, if this is you just navigating a difficult phase in your life, which I think for most of you, this feels like a calling. This feels like something that you struggle with and you figure it out in a way where it then makes you particularly good at working that area of life with other people as well. Because it's not about closing the loop of healing, but it's really like it's almost like you're staying somewhere. There's a metaphor that wants to come through, but it makes me think of, is it Stargate? Does he decide to stay at the end? I think so, right? They go through this portal, they go into a completely different world. And then at the end, he's like, you know what? I'm just going to kick it here. I'm just going to stay here because this is insane. And there's not much that I have to go back to. And I'm really here because this feels like it's my purpose. I don't know. I might be reaching there with Stargate, but that's the energy that's coming through, is that you're becoming really good. This makes me think of 8th house energy. It makes me think of 12th house energy. And I know that is something where you hear it and you're like, oh, great. Like that's my lot in life. But this is incredibly skilled navigation. This is incredibly important also because it is something that you're providing to either your life overall, your family, your ancestral lineage, your community, or humanity. There is something that that feels a little thankless while you are experiencing it, but I think you're becoming an incredibly skilled navigator of difficult terrain. And it becomes something that is really enlightening. It becomes something where it's like, I'm looking at this Lovers and I'm just thinking like, it's you and me, baby. But it feels like you have that energy towards, I think, like a land or towards a passion. I don't think it's towards like a person, but it makes me think of like archaeologists. It makes me think of sociologists, like people who travel because they are just so fascinated by some kind of discovery, but it requires them to come outside of their comfort zone, but it feels so rewarding. It feels so, I don't care that the star card is in the reverse. It feels so rewarding because the process feels rewarding. All right. This is really, I understand why you picked the Pirates deck, but this is really fascinating. It feels very ominous. All right. The truth that you need to face in order to step into this power. We have the King of Cups. Here's the Three of Cups. Okay, so immediately I'm already getting this message. What you need to face here is that this is something that is coming from deep within you, And there's no point in waiting for an invitation. There's no point in waiting for signs. This is something that, like, it feels like it just emerges out of you. It's not something that you are being told to do. It's not something that the universe or spirit or life outside of you is saying like, hey, you must do this in order to achieve this or that. No, this has to grow from outside of you, or inside of you, sorry. We have the Page of Wands. And then we have the Queen of Pentacles. At the bottom of the deck, we have the Three of Pentacles. Okay. The truth that you have to face here is that what feels right is not always going to look right. It's not always going to make sense. It could make you feel like you're running in the wrong direction, because I do think you're going against some kind of social norm here, or some kind of, especially because this Queen of Pentacles is underneath the Star card in reverse. I do feel like the truth that you need to face is that you cannot see the fruit on the tree when you haven't planted the seed yet. And I think that's where some of your inner conflict is coming from. And that's where, honestly, with this Five of Wands, also as an energy that you're mostly embodying in regards to what I think is this empowerment, is that you kind of want things to be, I feel a little hesitant saying this because I would feel attacked. You kind of want something handed to you here. And even, here's the truth that you have to face. If it were handed to you, you would not enjoy it. Whatever your soul's purpose or your excitement is, if it were handed to you, you would not enjoy it. Which means that you are in a place where you kind of have to work for it, because that's what's part of who you are, because you enjoy working for it. Because if it comes easy, you don't respect it. Oof. Because if it comes easy, it's not valuable to you. This makes me think of my cat, to be honest. I have a cat who is, his birthday is tomorrow actually, and he's turning 11, so he's a little bit of getting into his senior years. And so he's not as playful as he used to be, right? And even when I first got him, I've had him for 5-6 years now, and even when I first got him, he wasn't very playful. I have to sort of use certain tactics to get him to engage with playtime, which means that it has to, like, the toy has to become sort of obstructed and inaccessible. He needs a little bit of a challenge. If I just wiggle it right in front of him, some cats totally fine with that. My cat is like, okay, whatever. Like, he doesn't take it serious. He does not take it serious. There's something here that you actually take for granted. There's some kind of skills that you have in navigating emotional landscapes that you take for granted if you don't find yourself in challenging situations. And I think that you have put a lot of effort into being able, like, whether you've learned something or you've had a lot of support throughout your life, where it's kind of like you had challenges but you also had support. There is something where, and support doesn't necessarily mean somebody comes in and fixes it for you, but more so you had resources, access to resources like books, self-help guidance, something like that. You were able to teach yourself. Not everybody is able to do that. And so I do think that you were able to find a way to find emotional stability within yourself. And now when something is like handed to you, it's like, where's the fun in that? Where's the fun in that? So there is this idea of like, oh, of course I want ease in my life. Of course I want comfort in my life. And I do think that that is something that is part of your journey. I absolutely think that this is just a matter of that's not what you value. Like the reward, the paycheck, whatever it is, the feeling of having done it is not what you value. It's the challenge in the meantime, being part of a group of people that are passionately invested into what it is that they're doing. This also makes me think of the concept of if you love what you're doing, it's like you never work a day in your life. Especially with this Death card and the King of Cups, I also think some part of this feels like some people go through so much trauma and really intense experiences that everyday life, or just like a quiet, simple life, just seems insane. It seems like something like that doesn't make sense to me. I also, of course, because this is the Pirates deck, again, the Tempest Tarot, it also is sort of making me think of Pirates of the Caribbean, and the way that Jack Sparrow is kind of like, he's more sane when he's on a boat than when he's on land. Like there's this feeling of like certain things make more sense when you are in the battle. Now, again, the battle does not necessarily have to mean struggle. The battle here, I think, has a lot to do with academia. It has to do with science. It has to do with psychology. It has to do with you, perhaps even astrology. This is you mapping out a certain understanding of complex situations, and you are making more and more sense of certain things, and it just feels like home. Something about this feels like home, and not in a trauma bonding kind of way, but in a way where it's like, this is what I'm good at. And so again, the truth that you have to face here is that even though the sort of capitalist underpinning that we all have grown into, which is, you make a lot of money and then you retire and then you live your life, even though that is sort of hardwired in all of us of like, I just want to be comfortable, I just want to make money, or I just want to have a certain abundance in my life. That's where a lot of like manifestation concepts are like built around these days as well. Perhaps you've been finding yourself at conflict with some of those, and it's because that's not where your passion lies. Your passion doesn't lie in getting the reward. Your passion does not lie in a life of ease. And if that pisses you off, that's totally fine. Maybe this doesn't resonate for you, but your passion lies in you are a general. You, especially with that Emperor energy, you are somebody. The Emperor is not someone who just rests on his riches. The Emperor is in constant state of responsibility. Yeah, look, 8th house. What did I say? We have the Sun and Scorpio. Are you shitting me? Sorry. This goes so well with this energy. I'm sorry, but you're the captain now. This is, you are the captain of the Black Pearl. My bad. Sorry. I think Jack doesn't want that either. I'm sorry, but you're just really good at it. You're really good at navigating other people's psyche. You're really good at navigating scary topics, whether that is death or psychology, or whether that has to do with just the things that feel taboo in society that most people don't want to deal with, right? Because death and beyond. There's something here where it's kind of like, I don't know, I just keep getting this vibe of you being like, I don't want to do that just because I'm good at it. Okay, but everything else you don't want to do either because it's too easy for you. It's boring. It's boring to you. It feels like most things that are of this world are boring to you. It's like, that's easy. I could do that in my sleep. It doesn't excite you. And what does excite you frustrates you. But that's because you're challenged, you're engaged. And you love it. My goodness, do you love it with this Lovers card? And even that Page of Wands is like dreaming of that. It's like, oh my God, yes, I love a little challenge. I love getting beat up in the ring of life. Anyway, the 8th house is the house of death. It is the house of sex. It is the house of deep, deep transformation. It is the house that deals with occult things. It is the house of things that are out of our control. And with the Sun and Scorpio energy, your vibe is very much out of my control. Ha! Watch me. You are chasing Moby Dick. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You hate it. You hate it. But it also is like, you love it. You also love it. You're so good at it. You're so good at it. You are very likely also very good at managing money. That means maybe you work with money, but money itself doesn't mean that much to you. That's not the thrill. That's not the excitement. It's the science behind it. It's the math behind it. Something about that. Yeah, you're just constantly trying to, this also is giving the vibe of like Twister, like Storm Chaser. Like you're a freak. I'm sorry. I love it. I love your energy. Because you don't want to. You're that kind of character in a movie where it's kind of like, oh no, there's this really like dangerous thing that's happening and there's only one scientist that is crazy enough to be able to have like this theory. Oh my God, this is Project Hail Mary. I'm sorry, but you are Ryan Gosling in Project Hail Mary. That's you. Because he didn't want to go either. I don't remember what's his name in the book. I did listen to the audiobook, a great audiobook. Reese something Land. Whatever his name was. Anyways, yeah, you're that guy. Sorry. And yet nobody else could have done it. Nobody else could have done it. Because yeah, that's what I'm getting here, is that this feeling of like, and listen, this doesn't mean that the world's going to end because you don't want to do the thing that you don't want to do, that you actually love to do. That's not what's coming through here, because this reading is about the power that you're stepping into, and the power that you're stepping into is realizing that you are actually holding yourself back by doing that little dance of like, oh, I don't want to, but I want to, but I don't want to. There's parts of you that are concerned because you just don't want the responsibility. You just don't want to have, honestly, perhaps even the commitment to that path. But at the same time, it feels like nothing else excites you. Wow. I love you. This is a character in any given book. I would be like, oh my God, I love this character. So I get it. Because you know what? Being alive is suffering. Look at it. We have disillusion. And then we have connect. Okay. These cards, they move too much. It's gonna bother me, but whatever, we can live with it. And then we have sovereignty. Yeah, see, again, there's something that you're meant to do. There's something that you're meant to conquer, and maybe you're like, no, I just want to be a worker bee. I just want to go to my office and not have to start my own business and invent this thing that's gonna save maybe not humanity, but maybe your neighborhood. I don't know, but it's kind of like, okay, but it's good. You'd be miserable. It's also making me think of Fight Club, because there is a part of you, right? Oh my God, that's why the 5 of Wands. It is making me think of Fight Club. There is a part of you that is like, no, I want to do something. And then there's a part of you that's like, no, just lay low. Wow, you are a bundle of tension, to be honest. All right, with disillusion and connect, I do think that it requires kind of like some kind of ego break in order for you to be able to connect the dots and to truly connect with your passion here. It does require this feeling of like some kind of story that you've been telling yourself that is meant to keep you safe. And again, that was the truth that we are facing here. The fact that you don't want what everybody wants. That's kind of the disillusion part, I think. We have the orphan and the healer. Oh, I swear, this book is writing itself. And look, we have the Lover. This book is writing itself. This is insane. You are such a, what is it? A reluctant hero? The anti-hero that becomes just like the sweetest, most capable golden retriever. I don't know if that's a trope. But with the orphan and the healer, it's kind of like, what have y'all done for me? Why do I need to step in, right? Why do I need to step in and sort of change something here? Again, this could be just for the sake of yourself, for the sake of your lineage, changing an ancestral pattern. You are definitely giving black sheep vibes here. And there is something where you have learned how to transmute some kind of venom into the antidote. And that is incredibly valuable knowledge. And in order for you to break some kind of pattern or cycle, it's about how do I engage with the instinct of being a fighter, but how do I'm thinking of a pit bull, to be honest, right? I've lived with a pit bull in the past. They are the sweetest creatures. I know that they have an awful reputation because of what humans have conditioned them to do. And that is exactly what we're talking about with disillusion. You have been conditioned to be reactive to certain responsibilities or people having needs because you're like, I had to figure out for myself how to do this. Why can't you figure it out for yourself? But imagine a pit bull that was conditioned to react a certain way can still be rescued and sort of met with compassion and love in a way where you can find a way to let that pit bull's energy out in a productive way, right? In a playful way. So it does not have, because pit bulls, yeah, they have a lot of force. They were bred for certain, most dogs were bred for certain reasons, right? So if you get a border collie and you keep him inside all day, yeah, he's gonna go nuts. So you have to exercise what they're good at. And I'm talking about this because I'm paying attention to these snakes here, where there's this feeling, instead of something continuing in a pattern of isolation, it becomes something that is this three-headed snake that sort of grows in its perspective, in its application as well. Transcends it transcends something here, transcends your origin. Look at, we have blossoming, and Spirit is like, aren't you so happy to be crowned the May Queen? You know what I'm seeing in my mind is the Midsummer scene. Aren't you so happy to be crowned our queen? And you're like, And we have discernment. Yeah, I'm telling you, there's something that you learned the hard way. But because of that, you're also just very much sort of attuned to that tension that comes from learning things the hard way. Honestly, the greatest leaders, honestly, also the greatest politicians are usually the people that step up because they're sick and tired of everybody else being so dumb. And that's what I'm getting here. Ooh, yeah, I'm sorry. You don't want it, but you're the captain now. We have voice. You are here to be known, so speak and be seen. Which also means that there are certain things that probably come quite easily to you. And again, you take those things for granted, and you sort of don't like when you're praised for the things that come easily to you. It does not, even if it for a little while would be like, oh yeah, that would be nice. In the long run, it will not. You will still be chasing Moby Dick. In the long run, even if on the surface you get what you think you want, it won't be enough. And that doesn't mean that you're going to be chasing for the rest of your life, but no, there's something here that you are stepping into, finding that does satisfy you. Okay, that's what I'm saying. At the bottom of the deck, we have sharing. There is giving and receiving and giving. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. There's something about connecting. There's something about reciprocity here. This feels like, especially with the North Node in Aquarius, this feels like stepping into some kind of social position of power. This feels like stepping up and doing the thing that you don't want to do. For example, I love personal readings, and because of that, I have to do collective readings so that the right kind of people that vibe with me can find me. So in order for me to do what I love, I have to do this thing that I typically dread. And this not so much. I know I stepped away for a while from these pick a card readings, but like posting social media, putting my face online. I dread that. And if you've been around long enough, you know that because I mention it every turn I can. But I love what I do. So yeah, this definitely feels familiar to a certain degree, but my goodness, you got some power behind you. Can we get you some advice? An energy for you to release, to let go of is Alchemist. Misuse of the power, as I just said, power. Misuse of the power and knowledge that come through spiritual practice. See, I'm telling you, there's something where you're meant to give. You are meant to, and you're stepping into this power because you're realizing that, oh, this feels good. There is something about volunteer work here, or like a greater social cause. It feels meaningful. It doesn't matter how big or how impactful it is. Something about this feels meaningful to you, and therefore thereby releases you from the shackles of something having to be worth your time in terms of monetary or resource value. Because the Alchemist is kind of what you need to release here is the idea that you have to turn lead into gold, right? What you have to release is the idea that you have to sort of change yourself to fit into some kind of system. And the energy for you to embody more of is destroyer. You're allowed to be a disruptor in your career. You're allowed to be a disruptor in your vision and what it is that you provide. Again, did I mention Uranus earlier at some point? I don't remember. The death card is not necessarily coming through like the Tower. It's not coming through as Uranus energy here. It's coming through as that 8th house energy. It's coming through as sort of like a place that is a liminal space of discomfort. But that doesn't mean that it feels that way to you. It also makes me, I was thinking about this earlier with the Hierophant, I was getting a strong mercurial vibe here. And so Mercury being the god that can go between the regular world and the underworld, right? One of the very few gods that is able to travel back and forth. And so being able to have that kind of perspective is incredibly enlightening. Anyways, the energy for you to embody more of, it says releasing what is potentially destructive, preparing for new life. You have incredible leadership skills, whatever that might mean to you. So I think what you're stepping into is recognizing that you actually enjoy the wrestling with life, the wrestling with whatever it is that you have mastered in the past. And perhaps in the past you've been like, I just need to master that. And then maybe it is your master's, right? I just need to get my master's and then I'm done. And then I've finally, and then it's kind of like you're done and you're like, oh shit, now what? I thought that I just wanted to accomplish it, but now that I'm have accomplished it, I'm realizing that that's actually not as rewarding as the journey itself. Yeah, the energy you're mostly embodying at this time is Cobra, and in the booklet it says that the Cobra is basically looking for spiritual mentorship. This is desiring enlightenment, desiring a challenge. So yeah, pretty much. And then the energy for you to embody more of, we have the Unicorn. I I love that, like, even if you listen to this whole reading and it doesn't resonate, this would be a beautiful inspiration for a character, because I think we can all think of characters that sound or feel like this, but this is just such a beautiful rendering of that type, that archetype. All right, the energy for you to embody more of. I'm so sorry, but you are a unicorn. Reconnecting to higher wisdom or divinity. It's difficult to see, hear, or think of a unicorn without immediately questioning if it's real. Did they ever exist? Perhaps long, long ago? The mind answers, maybe, or it could be, or no way. This very contemplation explains our relationship with divinity and encapsulates our wavering belief in the unicorn. Wavering, right? All these different voices. We wonder what divinity is. We wonder where our intuition comes from and if we can really trust it. We think about a higher power and our mind hesitates between yes, no, and maybe. Again, I was saying you're waiting. If something were to just be offered to you, it doesn't feel the same. I'm also getting Hercules vibes now that I'm saying that. Is it male or female? Does it have a name? Is it just a feeling? The unicorn card appears and wakes us up to curiosity about the higher self and the divine. It is a card of questioning, exploring, contemplating the inexplicable, 8th house energy. The mind's eye knows there is something beyond our day-to-day lives, a deeper dimension to our experiences. The mind's eye reaches and reaches and reaches out to grasp something more. Is that not you? You are the unicorn, and you have begun your quest for the answers. Oh, you love it. Shut up, you love it. I just started hearing Life is a Highway, and I honestly don't even know that song. Life is a highway. What is it? I'm gonna ride it all night long. Any last considerations or advice here for group 2? We have don't let in. So don't let in is about not letting in the negative and fearful voices that try to keep you in a state of sort of emotional comfort that sacrifices your desires for that comfort. Yeah, we have let go at the bottom of the deck. This is about sort of allowing yourself to make friends with your shadows, which I think you are already exceptionally skilled at. And so this is kind of like finding a way to navigate those paths, not just from a place of survival, but from a place of mastery, which allows those pathways that's not just you crawling, right? Coming from the depths to a place of being safe and okay and abundant. You know, most people, they find themselves in the depths and then they just crawl their way up and then never look back. You have created a pathway where you're like, oh, look, that's where I put this little marker. That's where I put that little LED light. And so for you, it's something that is familiar, but just because it's familiar, don't get too comfortable. Don't get to a point where it's like, oh, it's just familiar because this is who I am. This is not about identifying with struggle or with fear. This is about understanding that you have been traversing a certain difficult landscape in order for you to be informed and educated enough to make something with those experiences, to create something out of those experiences, whether that is you starting a company, writing a book, mentoring other people, becoming some kind of I'm hearing doula, some kind of doula, death doula, anything like that. Someone who assists people to journey from one experience to a certain kind of awareness. Yeah, I'm going to leave it there. This is a really intense reading, very cool energy, easy for me to laugh at because, you know, I don't have to live it to the intensity that it's coming through here. But please don't take that personal. It's just because I really appreciate sort of the attitude that came through with this energy. In the end, I think you love it. If that's not the case, then it's probably not your reading. That being said, I hope it resonates. I hope it's constructive. Give it some time. If you would like to book a personal reading, I would love to engage with your energy more. This is super fascinating. My readings are available for booking on my website only. If you would like to do that, I'd be stoked to read for you. And other than that, I hope I get to read for you again sometime. Until then, take care. Hi, Group 3. Welcome to your reading. If you chose the Ethereal Visions Tarot, we are going to take this Strength card and put it in here, give it a good shuffle. We also have this crystal to accompany us in today's reading. This is a zebra jasper. I'm going to put that right there. We are taking a look at what power you are stepping into and the truth that it will cost you. So we are currently in eclipse season. We recently had the solar eclipse in Leo, and we have the Pisces eclipse, lunar eclipse in Pisces ahead of us on the 28th. At the time of recording this, it is the 20th. Even if you're watching this at a different time, just know that the energy of the eclipses is sort of informing the theme here, but not necessarily sort of the energy that you are currently in. Eclipse season is typically a very transitory, transitional vibe. And especially where we're finding ourselves right now, which is as the North and South Node have moved into Aquarius and Leo, we're sort of opening up new cans of worms, and especially with all the Leo energy that we are experiencing recently, there's a lot of sort of refocusing on where our power and strength truly lies, authentically lies. And so that is why we are taking a look at this for you today. We are going to start off with an energy check. That's going to be one card that lets me know the energy that you're mostly embodying at this time or striving to embody in regards to this power. We have the Lovers. That's a great card to come out because it really requires a lot of awareness. The Lovers, of course, has romantic connotations to it, but at the core, it is about choice. At its core, the Lovers is about the realization that our needs in the material world don't always align with our needs in the spiritual or emotional world. And so sometimes we have to make sacrifices. The Lovers coming out as an energy that you are mostly embodying sort of indicates an awareness around those necessary sacrifices or necessary choices that are ahead of you, with you stepping into whichever power we are about to take a look at. And we have the King of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck. Yeah, this feels like you're sort of strategizing. You're currently in this moment of realizing the choices that you make and how they have impacted your path so far and how they may influence your ability to step into this King of Pentacles energy, which is an energy of fertility and action. This is really the ability to strategize without rushing. This feels like This almost feels like maturing, like the tension here between these two feels like, okay, there are certain things that I want in life, but there are also things that I want for myself that require me to sort of recognize that I can't have everything that I want. So it feels like a general vibe of maturation and, let's just say, the frontal lobe fully developing. What is the power that you're stepping into at this time? We have the Ace of Swords. What is the power you're stepping into? We have the Nine of Swords. We have the Magician and we have the Five of Swords. Okay, the first thing that I'm getting is to not believe every thought that crosses your mind. A power that you're stepping into. Sorry, I just looked up and see that we're completely crooked in the viewfinder. To not believe every thought that crosses your mind. There is something where the power that you're stepping into, I think, has a lot to do with turning something around. It kind of feels like you're this feels like you're stepping into the ability to shut up a lot of doubt without repressing it. It's kind of like we're taking the concern, but we are not accepting the hysteria. We are hearing certain fears out, but we are not letting them decide our fate. Because that King of Pentacles that we saw is very much rooted in sustainability and stability. And that feels like what it is that you are working towards, is to feel really grounded into your life and into yourself. And it kind of feels like in order to do that, with this Magician, I'm getting this vibe of trying to regain the attention of a room that has gone distracted. So think of specifically, I'm thinking of like a town hall meeting where there's a lot of concerns, a lot of fears about something, and you know, the citizens want to be heard. And there's commotion, and then suddenly everyone's talking over each other. And even though the underlying concern feels relevant and valid, it still needs to be addressed in a way where it's like, okay, but we cannot hear every detail. We need to find a common denominator with this Five of Swords. Going from the Nine of Swords to the Magician to the Five of Swords, it feels like finding a common denominator. So the power that you're stepping into, it feels like you're finding a way to navigate your mind, finding a way to, without punishing yourself. This does not look like, just like I said, repression or just ignoring certain concerns, but it's about finding the common denominator, which makes a lot of sense with that King of Pentacles as well, because that is Taurus energy. And that is something I always say about Taurus energy that goes oftentimes underappreciated, because Taurus as a personification oftentimes is labeled as stubborn, but really Taurus is about finding common ground. And so especially with this Ten of Swords at the bottom of the deck here as well, this is kind of like, okay, but if we split off in too many ways, I'm really thinking of kind of like political splitting, and that's just a metaphor. But if political ideologies split off in too many different directions, then nothing gets done. And so I really think that the power that you're stepping into is getting yourself onto the same page, which is incredibly difficult for some people, right? There are some people who don't have a whole lot of conflict going on in their mind, who don't really have to struggle with their mind. But then there are some of us that do, and that doesn't make either one of us better or worse. It just means that we process things differently. And I think that you maybe find yourself sometimes in executive dysfunction, which means you know what needs to be done, but you have a hard time doing it because maybe you have too many thoughts that start to weigh you down of doing it well or doing it the right way. And so instead of starting a project, you think about it and think about it and think about it and put it off. That's something that I see changing. I see you sort of being able to work with the noise and to put something over it. You know, there's noise, and then there is white noise, brown noise, right? Brown noise is said to be something that is actually incredibly supportive for the human mind, helps you be more productive and less distracted. And yet it is also labeled as noise, right? So all noise is not the same noise. And so what I think I'm seeing here is the ending of a chapter with this Ten of Swords, of you victimizing yourself via the complexity of your mind and the complexity of your processing abilities. I think that you are gaining more confidence in how to navigate and work with your processing abilities. Because this to me feels like you have an incredibly, it makes me think of when I do astrology readings and I see certain Mercury placements. I talk about Mercury being our processor, and that, you know, some people have just, you know, a good processor, and some people have excellent processors, right? The kind of processors that can multitask. But sometimes we lose track of, okay, well, who's in charge here of saying what we're multitasking? And so I do think that this, and this is not to diagnose anyone at all, but it just sometimes helps to sort of explain the energy that I'm getting. It does kind of feel like feeling victimized by something, by a condition such as ADHD, which is totally valid and understandable. But this magician here and the power that you're stepping into is finding a program, an attitude, a system, something that works for you. So you don't have to punish or shame yourself for the way that your brain works, but you're actually able, with this Five of Swords, the Five of Swords, fives are cards of conflict. And with the Five of Swords, it's typically about conflict within communication, which sometimes means that we have to be okay with an imbalance of things, because somebody is the winner and somebody is the loser. Somebody gets the attention and somebody does not. And so this feels like certain concerns being addressed and then other concerns being not necessarily lumped together, but being downgraded in their priority. This really feels like you're finding your rhythm. This feels like you're finding your voice, especially if you are a writer or if you do anything that has to do with communication. This is you finding your voice. It makes me think of when I first joined the workforce many ages ago, and I would work in retail. And, you know, in retail, especially decades ago, you would have a certain voice, right? You have a customer service voice. And being a Scorpio myself, that felt very phony to me in the beginning, and I had to find my own voice. I had to find my own comfort in how would I talk to customers. And nowadays I'm extremely comfortable in talking to clients because I went through many phases of feeling really self-conscious and awkward in finding my voice. And so that is something that's coming through here, is that you are refining and finding your voice, and that really gives you a lot of confidence. And again, with the Lovers here, there is something about the choice of what it is that you give value to, and in sort of navigating how your mind processes certain fears and anxiety. It kind of feels like, okay, again, we're not repressing or just ignoring certain fears, but we're addressing them in a way where it's like, okay, you can manage. I have trust that you can manage this. You're not gonna sort of lose your balance just because I'm going to step away for a moment and focus on something else. And so I think you're really stepping into a lot of confidence. And again, that comes from rejecting some kind of process or narrative of self-victimization here. And so with the Lovers, it kind of feels like you're also enforcing positive patterns and choosing, making healthy choices for yourself when it comes to your mental well-being and balance. That's really cool. All right, let's take a look at what truth that is costing you. What is the truth that this is costing you? We have the Knight of Cups. We have the Hierophant. Something that I'm already getting intuitively is the truth that it's costing you is that this is harsh because it's I don't know that truth is helpful, but because it feels like it would frustrate you and there's a potential for you to sort of blame yourself. But one of the truths that you do have to face is that this is something that has always been available to you. Just because it's always been available to you doesn't mean that you were always capable of utilizing that perspective, because that's the thing. It is somehow a choice. See, that's where I want to be really careful, especially if this is due to a condition or some kind of hormonal or mental imbalance. I have no intention of making you feel like you are that way by choice, okay? That's not the point I'm trying to make here. But your ability to get a grip on this is heavily informed by your choice to not remain a victim of that status or condition. But again, that is I don't want you to use that to judge yourself or hurt yourself, because that's not the point. That's why it is a truth that has to be faced here, because the opposite of that is the idea that somebody has an antidote, that somebody has a medication, and I don't want to, this is just a metaphor. I don't want to stay too much on like the aspect of this being a condition, because it's just sort of like a mental climate, but that somebody else has the answer. Because that really sort of disempowers you from what it is that you're capable of arranging, because nobody has access to the inside of your inner workings. And so you know best how to organize that process. So somebody coming into you, I'm thinking of like Marie Kondo, coming into your mind and being like, oh, that needs to go, that needs to go, that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense to her because she has lived her life a certain way and that has worked for her. But that doesn't mean it works for you, which also means that a doctor doesn't always have the right answer for you because they don't know what it's like to be you. That doesn't mean to ignore doctors, absolutely not. I really want you to take what I'm saying here with a lot of discernment and a grain of salt. It's about finding the balance between many different elements here, right? The magician works with the cups, with the pentacles, with the swords, and with the wands. This is about synthesis of many different very real aspects, instead of thinking that there is one solution and one answer to your inner world here. That also means that there is not one religion that can give you sort of satisfaction or the feeling of you're doing things right and now you are healed and safe and secure. That there is not one political affiliation that can do that. That there is not one sort of medical thought. That there is not one diagnosis. That there is not one singular perspective that can make sense of you, but rather it is you being open to receiving different inputs and not just taking what works and ignoring the rest, but making sure that you remain in the position of understanding what does and does not work for you. Okay, so again, I don't want to make this focus solely on any kind of medical conditions. That was just a way for me to explain the energy, but this does have a lot to do with your mental processing, that you're stepping into a space of empowerment where you are taking your own processing ability more serious instead of feeling like there's something that you're doing wrong. All right, we have the Page of Swords, and then the last one out is the 10 of Cups. So, at the bottom of the deck, we have the Chariot, which again is a card of discernment and choice and movement through movement that follows careful consideration. So, the truth that has to be faced here with the Knight of Cups, the Hierophant, the Page of Swords, and the 10 of Cups. I do think that there is some kind of idealization of, I want to almost say other people's lives or other people. Like there's this feeling of, if only it kind of makes me think of, you know, sometimes I've definitely jokingly said like, oh, I wish I was stupid. You know, like I wish I was, ignorance is bliss. I wish I, you know, the intelligent people, and that's not to blow my intelligence out of proportion. Let's not get carried away. But still, intelligent and self-aware people struggle. You know, less intelligent and less self-aware people struggle with other things. We all have our struggles, but still, that's sort of the attitude that is being brought to mind here, is that I think you may have a truth that needs to be faced here. Sorry about the jet noise. A truth that needs to be faced here has to do with the idealization of other people's lives and this feeling that everybody else is sort of falling into a system that seems to make sense for them. So I definitely wouldn't be surprised if group 3 is a group of neurodivergent people, because this also isn't something that is new to you. This feels like something that has always been very obvious to you, but there's still this feeling of, well, if I sacrifice my well-being, then maybe I can fit in. Or if I sacrifice honestly, your strength, because I do see strength in your mental processing. It's just that it works in an incredibly complex way that desires more engagement, because otherwise it starts to gnaw at itself. And that makes me think of the understimulation of a pet, right? Our pets, we keep them locked up in our homes all day, and then we get frustrated when they start to mess with our belongings. When in reality they are animals that we have kept in confinement and are not stimulating. And please, I am not, see, I notice that I'm constantly feeling the need to constantly sort of amend what I'm saying, and it's because you are very particular in your processing. So I just wanted to amend right there that I'm not likening you to an animal. We all are animals. See, again, I'm still doing it. But again, an understimulated pet and an understimulated mind can lead to a lot of frustration. And the truth that you need to face here is that you are really undervaluing yourself by fooling yourself into believing that there is some kind of emotional equilibrium that should be your goalpost. It's so interesting because alongside that King of Pentacles, it almost feels like you find your grounding in the acceptance of it not being something that is meant to be chased. Because this kind of does feel like, what do I gotta do? What do I have to do in order to get to, with the Hierophant, this feels almost like, St. Peter? And then this is the pearly gates. And this, with the Page of Swords, this is sort of like a simplified idea of, okay, I need to sort of give an offering. I need to be a certain way in order for Peter to allow me to go into heaven, nirvana, a state of bliss. But that King of Pentacles, and that of course is the sum of our choices, right? In the mythological construct of the Bible, that is the sum of our choices decide whether we go into heaven or not, if that's what you believe, just the story of it. Whereas the change that I'm seeing here is that you are going from, what do I have to do to be grounded and happy, to, oh, I have to choose to be aware of more grounding and happiness in my everyday life. So it shifts from a goalpost to an awareness. Oh, that's so cool. I love that. That's really, that is something where it's kind of like, wow, that's just such a small thing and it changes everything. And I know that's something that we hear over and over and over again, but still, the moment that it really clicks for you is when it really clicks for you. And even the fact that I just said the same thing twice, it's still, you can hear something and still, it doesn't necessarily, hearing something is not the same as realizing something. Wow, you're such a smarty pants. And so once you know how to sort of engage with this journey from a different attitude, I feel like this really empowers you to become more confident. And I really think that leads to you finding more and more King of Pentacles energy, like pockets of being able to embody that energy in your everyday life. Okay. Yes, absolutely 100%. I love it. I love it. We have the 10th house, we have Aries energy, and we have Mercury energy. The 10th house, that's what I'm saying. The 10th house is very much the domain of the King of Pentacles. The 10th house is the house of public recognition, career. It is also just the most aspirational house. That's debatable. I do think that the 11th house is the most aspirational, so not me arguing with myself. See what you do to me? You're so funny. Anyways, I say that because the 11th house is the house of ideals, and it's just a little bit more focused on sort of collective aspirations, whereas the 10th house is our personal aspirations. So it is a very aspirational house though. Aries energy is very much about the self, the individual, and it is cardinal energy. It initiates. And then Mercury energy is all about the mind. So again, you're constantly trying to break new ground and trying to be a better version of yourself. But because of that, you're also constantly striving for what? For someone to tell you, oh my God, you're so smart. Well, there you go. I just did that. For someone to tell you you're doing such a good job. Look around your life. Don't you feel happy? Don't you feel accomplished? Don't you feel, and it's kind of like, I don't know. I've got 10 voices in my head telling me I still need to do that, and I haven't done that, and I never finished this, and I still got this book I need to read, and I still got that book I need to write. And so it just passes you by. There's so much noise. Going back, I never finished that analogy, and now that I realize it, because I got distracted by talking about brown noise and white noise. But I did want to say that, when you're sitting in traffic and you put on the blinker, and some days you're already like overstimulated and the blinker is just like, oh my God, shut up. But especially when the light just won't turn green and you're sitting there forever and it just feels like it's like bashing your ears. But then other days you sit there and you listen to the blinker and you hear it. And if you listen to it long enough, it starts to turn into a song. It starts to remind you of something, or you turn on the radio and it's totally on beat with something. That's what I'm getting here, right? That you're turning something that feels very overstimulating and noisy into something that you can work with, right? I said that you're finding your rhythm, you're finding your voice. That's why I got distracted, because I had said you're finding your voice. But I wanted to put the emphasis on you're finding the rhythm of the way that your mind works. And you're working with it. This is not about, again, it's not about censorship. It's not about shutting the mind up. It's not about making your mind work the way other people's minds work. It's about understanding that the way your specific mind works requires a little bit of wrangling, but you are the best authority to do so long as you don't live by someone else's authority that tries to tell you that there's something wrong. Now, I want to make it very clear that, again, this does not mean if you are on some kind of medication to go off of medication. I just feel the need to say that because I do think that this could be a message that is it's supposed to be empowering and it's supposed to be emboldening, but it's not supposed to make you think you are invincible. That's not the point here, okay? Because like I said earlier, it's about synthesizing different resources and abilities and knowledge that you have access to and making sure you find the sweet spot. The magician is an alchemist. He understands how to use things to his advantage without letting them rule over him, okay? Because that is the other thing, that some external voices or some sort of things that we do to regulate certain perspectives, fears, anxieties that we have can then also sort of lead to turning off the tap completely, so then we don't have any access to our creative juices either. And so that is something that you have to navigate in a safe way. All right. I'm not the kind of reader that will let you fall into spiritual psychosis. I want to be very clear on that. Okay, but that being said, incredible energy. This is very aspirational. I also don't think that I'm talking to anyone that is like deeply struggling here. Again, I think you're already, right? This is the power you're stepping into. You're starting to make sense of things. You're starting to get a grip on how to use your mind to your own advantage. And the truth that you have to face in that is that there is no goalpost to, there's no particular goalpost to impress or to. The truth that you have to face here is that you may have been chasing a false idea of happiness, and the more that you allow yourself to engage in stability and groundedness whenever it is right in front of you, instead of feeling like it's something that you have to work towards. It makes me think of the way some people work towards retirement, right? And therefore they save up all their money and never go on any vacations. This is about allowing yourself to engage in moments of stability and security and bringing awareness to them whenever you have them, instead of focusing so much on when you are feeling destabilized. Bringing more awareness to the fact that you actually have learned how to get yourself back into balance and into stability. All right, energies to be aware of. We have wound, and we have support. Yeah, you know, this kind of feels, it makes me think of your immune system reacting to a wound. Like there are systems that you have been figuring out, that you have been learning, and that you have been integrating. You've been learning this, you've been learning that, you've been synthesizing information from this and that and this and that. And just because you can't always access them when you're trying to explain them to someone, doesn't mean that you don't have access to them when you need them. We also have boundary at the bottom of the deck. We're going to get 2 from this deck. But also from this support, I'm getting how all these voices here in the 9 of Swords, I don't know if you can see that actually, there are all these different sort of ghosts that are shaming her and that are like ridiculing her. And instead of them turning on her, they actually become supportive, you know. And as I say that ghost, it makes me think of Casper, the friendly ghost. And when the ghosts are trying to get those people out of the house, but then in the end, they sort of come together to attack a common enemy, right? That's exactly, oh, I love that. It fits so well. This is, you know, joining forces with the parts of you that you have been told to victimize or have been told to villainize, and coming together to actually sort of bring something greater into being. We have Apocalypse. And we have the Mask. Oh, I love that. Because as Apocalypse came out, I'm like, I wonder what it is that's going to be sort of be destroyed here. And it is the Mask. So yeah, if you already know that you are neurodivergent, this definitely is a safe reading for you. If that is something that you maybe have considered but you weren't aware of, or you didn't feel confident in making that, this is not a diagnosis at all. But I also often find, neurodivergence, any of those kind of categories, exist on a spectrum that is about experience. And so it's not so much about the label, but it's about the recognition that there are a million different ways to experience life, and there is not one normal. Some people apparently are normal, whatever that means, but there is not one normal way to be. There is just a expectation that a capitalist society has placed upon us, and that is to perform, to be productive, to be easy to get along with, to be sociable, to be manageable. And so with Apocalypse and the mask, that is what's falling away here. That is what you are working on deconstructing. And sometimes this mask over time has been created to hide certain wounds. And so when you start to remove the mask of trying to fit into some kind of ideal, it can feel like, oh no, now I'm looking at that just hurts me. Now I'm looking at all these wounds. But you are somehow, with the Magician and the support card, ideally, not just somehow, because again, you are the authority of your mind. You are uniquely qualified to find your own rhythm here. Also, for some reason, as I'm looking at the Apocalypse card right now, I started hearing that song, and I think it's just because I was thinking of Pompeii. So I'm hearing that, and if you close your eyes, they almost feel like you've been here before. And if you close your eyes, how am I gonna be an optimist about this? I don't really know why that's coming up, but I'm sure it makes sense. We have faith. I love this, especially faith coming out when you were showing up as the lovers. I love that. That's very romantic. It's very sweet. This really does kind of feel like falling in love with yourself again. That's so sweet. The rush of emotions I just felt when I said that. Falling in love with yourself again. I fear that a lot of situations, social situations, I just heard grooming situations, so trigger warning, sorry. But that again is just a word. There's many connotations to that. Conditioning situations have really sort of made you lose appreciation for some of your intricacies, and made some of those aspects of your mind really distorted, and made it feel like it's noise when it really is, if it's appropriately addressed, it's something that actually is sort of like a whole orchestra. When it's, when you find the rhythm, thank you. She got there. He is holding this one. I was thinking about that when I was listing all the different ones. I was like, oh, how interesting that in this depiction he's actually holding just the wand. But the wand is also very small. So it almost looks like a... whatever, you know what I mean. You are setting the tone. And when there's an orchestra and the directions are off because you've given the... whatever it's called, because you've given it to someone who doesn't understand the music, or maybe the theme, the feeling of the music, then it's like, okay, it's mechanical, and maybe it just feels like it's off. It just feels like it's off. We also have protection at the bottom of the deck. With faith and protection, this is really about self-preservation here. Yeah, I think you've let someone else lead your orchestra, and your orchestra is like a very cool one that has instruments that some people don't know how to deal with or how to orchestrate, right? I'm thinking of, those little keyboards that you blow into, but they're also, or like those things with buttons where it's like different sounds. Yeah, if you give like a traditional, especially with the Hierophant, if you give a traditional director an orchestra full of like really cool new age instruments and machinery, they're not gonna know what to do. All right, We have presence of absence. Hold what is absent in the presence of your love. So notice how I was talking earlier about the idea of happiness being a goal that you work towards versus happiness and stability, I should say, finding moments to choose to engage in happiness and stability and groundedness whenever you can. Hold what is absent in the presence of your love. So even as you are judging yourself and your life very harshly and being like, okay, I'm still not where I want to be though. Okay, but hold even the goalpost, hold that in relation to what it is that you have already achieved, what it is that you are capable of, what it is that you are good at. We have broken dreams. Only you can accept or reject your dreams. All right. Can we get some advice here for group 3? What is an energy to release, to let go of? We have mediator. This really kind of feels like trying to hold on between two different worlds, like trying to make sense of things. Like I'm feeling a lot of tension here. The shadow attribute says negotiating with an ulterior motive or hidden agenda, either personally or professionally. And that is exactly, the mediator is that voice, again, whether that is directing the orchestra, letting someone else direct it, or being in that town hall and being like, I'm trying to listen to everyone, but you can't. So you do have to kind of say, okay, everybody shut up, you first, then you take your turns, right? This is you really sort of taking the lead. And then the energy for you to embody more of is exorcist, freeing yourself and others of destructive impulses. So look at very intense energies, especially as we are in eclipse season with apocalypsis and exorcist. Those are intense purging energies. And so in order to, this is now making me think of the 10th house again. It's the highest point of the chart. So it is aspirational. Aries energy is fueled by fire, fueled by Mars energy. So I'm thinking of the way that a space shuttle goes out into space. It requires a lot of energy, fuel, but also the idea of sort of when they shoot up, they usually use fuel tanks, and then once that's used up, then they sort of dismantle that, right? So that's kind of what I'm getting here, of like there's going to be aspects that you get control over, and you're not even going to notice that with time they kind of fall away. There's going to be concerns and fears that you have that are very loud right now that you will not notice once they actually disintegrate or once they get integrated. You won't notice that until one day you look back and you're like, whoa, that was something I used to be afraid of. That was something I used to think about like obsessively all the time. And I just realized I haven't thought about that in forever. And that's gonna happen naturally as long as you let yourself take the lead here. Okay. Spirit, what is an energy that group 3 is mostly embodying at this time? We have the fire ant. Again, very social perspective, and also very social sort of organized thinking, hive mind. And that is just, it doesn't work. It hurts. It hurts your mind to try and adapt to the expectations that you are imposing onto it. The energy for you to embody more of is the starfish, which is also making me think of the King of Pentacles again. And again, sort of allowing yourself to find that stability wherever it is accessible, and that it's not so... It's not just in the accomplishment or in the sort of fitting into, because this feels like this 10 of Pentacles is a very conventional idea of happiness here. All right, we are going to read the starfish from the booklet if I can manage to find it. No. There it is. This card says, beautiful, alluring, superficial, or shallow. The starfish is a natural and exquisite beauty, mesmerizing to all. Being around someone with starfish energy is a thrill, like you've been put under a spell of divinity itself. The problem is, these creatures have been reliant on how they look and what other people think of them for so long that they may have forgotten their deeper callings. When this card appears, it's important to ask, am I being swayed by outward appearances? What dreams have I put aside to please others? When in balance, uplifting, artistic, and expressive, finding your voice. When out of balance, gossips, feels empty. To bring into balance, positive friends. Meaning people who appreciate you sort of unconditionally, right? People who appreciate your intricacies and your complexities. So the mask here, right? This feeling of like, okay, who do I gotta be in order to get into the pearly gates? Who do I gotta be in order to be seen as competent, as worthy, as smart? Because that's the other thing, you know, there are so many highly intelligent people who, by an average person, if an average person has an interaction with a highly intelligent person, a lot of times the average person will walk away being like, that guy was a weirdo, or that guy was kind of special, or that guy was kind of dumb, because there's just, and that's not a matter of hierarchy of who's better and who's smarter, but it is just, don't measure yourself by someone else's judgment. Okay, that's what's important here. Notice the stark difference here between the colors are similar. We have orange and yellow, and we have red and yellow and orange here. But here we have all these perceptions of different individuals working together as a hive. And here there's one singular expression of a being sprawling out. And very unique being at that as well. All right, Spirit, any last considerations or advice here for group 3? Any last considerations or advice? We have The Secret came out, where you're going to get one extra card, because whenever The Secret comes out, I like to get another card and see what the secret sauce is. I'm not going to end it on a secret. But also, Secret is making me now think of the theme song, the updated theme song that came in the later seasons of Sabrina the Teenage Witch, the original TV show, because it would go, secret, na 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 na. And she had a double life, right? And there were people, oh my God, especially in the early seasons, people always acted like at school like she was a loser. And yet she was the coolest one around because she was a freaking witch. Anyways, we have Release. Now I'm getting so worked up. We have Invocation. Oh, okay. Invocation is about inviting in certain energies and perspectives. And so again, going back to the King of Pentacles energy and finding pockets of stability and grounding that are immediately accessible to you. This is kind of like asking for. So the secret here in shifting this energy and allowing you to step into this power, to face the truth that you're chasing some kind of goalpost that might not even be aligned with you. That is sort of like a difficult truth here for sure for some, that the ideal that you're chasing is not actually aligned with you, not because you're not meant to experience love or a family or anything like that, but there might be something that you are striving for ideally. It makes me think of when somebody is striving for a body that is not medically healthy, right? That kind of thing. That again is just a metaphor to explain the energy, though. It doesn't have to be that at all. But this is sort of, I lost the thought, or I lost the first sentence that I started. Anyways, so the last consideration here from Spirit is that the secret to shifting that energy, there we go, we're back on track, is to ask for more awareness. And asking is really just you inviting yourself to bring more awareness to where you are feeling grounded and secure, and to sort of, especially with the Exorcist card, I really don't think that you are meant to get rid of certain mental noise. It says freeing yourself and others of destructive impulses. I think it's not so much about getting rid of what you have within you as much as it is to get rid of the idea of fitting into a place that does not feel expansive enough for everything that you have within you. And I think the more that you allow yourself to focus on spaces and opportunities that do make you feel grounded, the more you can deal with the tension that comes from not quite fitting in. Because you don't need to feel or work towards a false sense of security sometime in the future if you're able to navigate the world as it is now from a place of knowing, oh, anytime that I need, I can have my safe space. I can have my groundedness. I don't need to outsource that or kick it down the road. I want to say I hope that makes sense, but if this reading resonates, you're very smart, and I know that you understand this, and I know that you get it, and I know that you probably already know this, but that's what tarot readings are for anyways. It's about confirmation of what you already know intuitively. So I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for hanging out. I really hope it resonates. I hope it's constructive. I hope it gives you something to think about a little bit. If you would like to book a personal reading, I do love personal readings. You can do so only on my website, which is linked below. I would love to get the opportunity to read for you in a personal session, but also I am trying to get back to these pick a cards, so hopefully I can stay on top of this. Yeah. Have patience with me on that, but either way, take care, and I hope I get to read for you again sometime.